In spite of the fact that Tammy Slaton's living condition has always been complicated, her issues reached a boiling point during the 6th season of 1,000-Pound Sisters. At her heaviest, the influencer, who is now 38 years old, weighed 725 pounds, which means that she has always required a great deal of assistance with her day-to-day existence. Due to the fact that she required a great deal of assistance, it was impossible for her to ever truly operate on her own. The fact that she has shed a considerable amount of weight has allowed her to restore her mobility. Nonetheless, it is possible that she will have difficulty taking care of herself. There are ongoing challenges in Tammy's life as a result of the fact that she was never taught how to be independent. Tammy was able to shed an astounding 500 pounds after undergoing bariatric surgery and also receiving treatment for her addiction to food. After going through a significant transformation, she is still learning how to be kind to herself. She has lived with practically all of her 5 siblings over the course of her life, and as a result, she ended up destroying a great deal of relationships along the road. The relationship between Tammy and Amanda Halterman, who was 43 years old, had a disastrous ending, and as a result, she required a new place to live as soon as possible. During the 6th season of 1,000-Pound Sisters, Tammy was in need of an additional family member who would take her in and care for her. In the home of her mother, Tammy lived. For a period of time, Tammy resided with her mother, Darlene Rednor, and this arrangement proved to be satisfactory for a period of time. Tammy is a difficult person to get along with, which is the problem with her. Over and over again, she was a source of contention with her mother, which made her life more challenging overall. It is inevitable that Tammy will come into conflict with the people in her life, and her mother was not an exception to this rule. Tammy's behavior is excused by the other members of the Slatons, who attribute it to the fact that she is very tall. On the other hand, it is really challenging to feel sorry for Tammy because she is her own worst enemy. With her sisters, Tammy shared a home. Immediately following her departure from Darlene's residence, Tammy temporarily resided with her sister, Amy Slaton, who is 37 years old. Following Amy's marriage to Michael Halterman, Tammy relocated to the house that was adjacent to hers. This was the most self-sufficient phase that Tammy had ever experienced. She had her own space, despite the fact that she still required assistance with her day-to-day needs. The house that Tammy lived in was broken into when she became ill and had to check into a facility that specializes in weight loss rehabilitation. There was a need for Tammy to find a new place to live once she graduated from rehabilitation since she did not feel safe remaining there. Amanda, the other sister of Tammy, stepped in and offered to let Tammy stay in her guest house rather than at her own home. The strategy was successful for a period of time, but Tammy's intransigence makes it difficult for her to maintain healthy relationships. Following a fight that had place between Tammy and Amanda during a family gathering for the 6th season of 1,000-Pound Sisters, Tammy refused to make apologies with her sister. Due to her tremendous stubbornness, she was unable to show any sign of becoming humble. In lieu of reconciling with her sister, Tammy made the decision to vacate the guest house that Amanda had provided for her. Next door to Chris and Brittany is where you'll find Tammy. Whenever Tammy finds herself in a precarious situation, one of her siblings is the first to rush to her rescue. The person who came to Tammy's aid this time was her brother, Chris Combs, who is 41 years old and plays for the band Sisters. As an investment property, Chris and his wife, Brittany Combs, who is 36 years old, recently purchased the house that is adjacent to their own residence from the previous owner. After having the intention of renting the house out to a tenant, they ultimately made the decision to let Tammy reside there instead. Brittany was concerned that allowing Tammy to reside next door could result in disruptive situations. Chris was reminded by Brittany that Tammy had a history of altercations with every member of the family that she had ever lived with. Chris is the only person who is aware of how difficult Tammy can be to deal with. Since long before he became a member of the cast of 1,000-Pound Sisters, he has been providing assistance to his sister, who is known for her fiery temper, in his role as the patriarch of the family. Once, many years ago, she had even lived with him for a short period of time there. The star of the show 1,000-Pound Sisters, Chris, reveals that he is unable to allow his renowned sister to be homeless, despite the fact that he is aware that allowing her to live next door will result in complications. Chris assured Tammy that he would do everything in his power to look after her, but that he would not allow her to come between him and his wife. There is still a question of how Tammy will destroy the last surviving bridge between her family members. The name, Ms. Slaton, Tammy. Happy birthday. July 27, 1986, when I was 38 years old. Origin of life, Kentucky, Kentuck. Relationship status, loss of a spouse. The heaviest weight, 7.20 kilograms. Weight at the moment, 230 kilograms. Complete and total weight loss, 400 kilograms. Tammy Slaton has captivated audiences with her emotional journey and complicated family dynamics on the hit reality show 1,000-Pound Sisters. From her struggles with obesity to the constant challenges she faces in maintaining relationships, Tammy's living situations have been a point of contention throughout her life. Over the years, she has found herself moving in and out of the homes of various Slaton family members, each time with its own set of difficulties and emotional tolls. With her extreme weight and the health risks associated with it, Tammy has often found herself dependent on her family for care, support, and, at times, as a source of friction. Her living arrangements have not only been a central theme on the show, but also a window into the complicated relationship she shares with her family. This article will explore Tammy Slaton's living situation in depth, from her early years with the Slaton family to her various stints with her siblings, and the breakdowns that occurred with each. We will delve into the emotional and physical tolls these arrangements took on her, as well as how Tammy's struggles with obesity shaped her relationships. Finally, we will examine the future outlook for Tammy's living arrangements and how her journey could evolve. Tammy Slaton's family background. Tammy Slaton's story cannot be understood without recognizing the importance of her family dynamic. Growing up in a family where both Tammy and her sister Amy struggled with weight and health, the Slaton family has always been at the heart of 1,000-Pound Sisters. Tammy and Amy share a complicated but close relationship, often shaped by their shared experiences with obesity. Both sisters were raised in Kentucky, and the family dynamic was one of constant struggle, both with weight issues and with the emotional and mental challenges that came along with it. The siblings' experiences of growing up together have influenced how they interact as adults. Amy Slaton, the older sister, has always been somewhat of a caretaker for Tammy. As the family became more concerned about their health, Amy started to become more active in helping Tammy with her weight loss journey. However, the relationship between the two often becomes strained, especially as Tammy's refusal to fully commit to healthier lifestyle changes leads to frustration. This has played a role in the complicated living situations Tammy has faced, especially as she has moved in and out of Amy's home. The reality of Tammy's obesity struggles. Tammy Slaton's battle with obesity has been a central theme in her life. As a child, Tammy faced challenges that led her down a difficult path toward extreme weight gain. Her obesity not only affected her physically but also emotionally. With each passing year, Tammy's weight has become more of a barrier to independence, making it hard for her to live on her own. The severe limitations of her physical health due to her size have meant that she is dependent on others for daily tasks and even basic care. For Tammy, this means a constant reliance on her family for support. Whether it's her sister Amy, her brother Chris, or others in the Slaton family, Tammy's emotional well-being and physical care are often linked to her relationships with her family members. However, this dependence has often led to tension, especially when family members feel that their support is being taken for granted or when Tammy is unwilling to take the necessary steps towards self-improvement. Living with Tammy Slaton. Perhaps the most well-known and talked about living situation for Tammy was when she lived with her sister Amy. At first, Amy's willingness to take Tammy in seemed like a supportive act of love, but as time passed, it became clear that this arrangement would have its difficulties. While Amy was initially hopeful about being able to help her sister, the reality of caring for someone with Tammy's health needs and emotional struggles was overwhelming. The relationship between the two was often filled with tension. Amy found herself juggling her own family life with the constant demands of caring for Tammy, leading to frustration and burnout. There were times when Tammy's refusal to follow medical advice or stick to a diet would escalate, causing major arguments and ultimately leading Amy to question if she could continue being her primary caregiver. Despite Amy's efforts, the pressure of living with Tammy became too much, and eventually, Tammy had to find other living arrangements. Living with other family members. After her time living with Amy, Tammy tried living with other family members, including her brother Chris and even her niece. Each arrangement seemed to come with its own set of challenges. Living with Chris, for example, brought its own struggles. Chris was more patient than others, but as time passed, the tension between him and Tammy grew as he, too, became frustrated by her reluctance to make necessary changes to improve her health. Living with other members of the Slaton family seemed to follow a similar pattern. Family members would initially offer support, but eventually the strain of Tammy's lifestyle would cause these arrangements to collapse. At times, Tammy was accused of taking advantage of the family's kindness, creating a sense of resentment. For someone who required constant care, Tammy's emotional and physical demands were simply too much for most people to handle, leading to a constant cycle of moving in and out of homes. Tammy's dependence on family and the emotional toll. Tammy's situation has taken a significant emotional toll on her family. While many of her relatives, especially Amy, initially offered their homes in an effort to help her, the constant caregiving soon became overwhelming. As Tammy's weight continued to pose serious health risks, her emotional and physical dependence grew stronger, often leading to feelings of frustration and helplessness among her family members. The emotional toll on Tammy has also been immense. Despite receiving care and support, she often feels abandoned or misunderstood. Her internal struggles with self-worth and self-image make her reliance on family difficult to navigate. The strain of living with relatives and the repeated cycle of moving in and out of their homes has left Tammy feeling isolated at times, even as she continues to depend on others for help. Therapeutic attempts and consequences. Throughout her journey, Tammy has made attempts to seek therapy and improve her health. She has worked with various professionals, including dietitians, counselors, and weight loss specialists, in an effort to regain control of her life. However, her living situations often interfere with her progress, as family dynamics can either hinder or help her efforts. Despite these attempts, the emotional strain of her living arrangements and the difficult family relationships made it hard for Tammy to maintain consistent progress. Many times, her efforts were undone by the very circumstances that surrounded her, whether it was a lack of support or a toxic environment that made it harder for her to stay on track. Current living situation and outlook for the future. As of the most recent seasons of 1,000-Pound Sisters, Tammy's living situation has shifted once again. She is currently living on her own, but her independence remains uncertain. With her health still at risk, the possibility of Tammy needing to return to family support is always looming. The future of her relationships with the Slaton family members remains complex, with hopes for improvement tempered by past experiences. Tammy's future will depend heavily on her ability to maintain her independence and the support of her family. With ongoing weight loss efforts and personal growth, there is a possibility for change, but it will take a concerted effort from both Tammy and her family to make her living situation more stable. Tammy Slaton's journey on 1,000-pound sisters has been one of constant struggle and change, particularly when it comes to her living situation. From her time living with Amy to her stints with other family members, Tammy's relationships with the Slaton family have been tested in ways that reflect the emotional and physical difficulties she faces every day. While there have been moments of support and love, there have also been moments of tension, frustration, and heartbreak. As Tammy continues her journey toward better health and self-improvement, her future living arrangements will undoubtedly remain a key aspect of her story. Whether she will be able to maintain independence or will need the help of her family remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: Tammy Slaton's journey is far from over.